Okay, before I get into what I'm doing right now, I'm going to answer a question from Dennis Pitts. He asked, why do I jack my wing up off the table like this? And it's not that I advocate to do this or recommend to do it this way. For me, it was easier because it was difficult for me to keep my wing flat on this table, which is on several 2x4s thickness and 3/4 inch plywood, and we just get such an extreme moisture and then dryness in our seasons here. And my table was always changing, not just the table top, but even the base of it, which is fairly solid. Everything's changing. Even the split line between them here, look at that, how that's raised up. That used to be perfectly straight across. And so as the wing comes off that, and that's going up in the air, now way out this way, that raises it, maybe 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch out that way. So I've got to either let the wing sag to either side, or I've got to shim up each end. Well, when I was shimming up each end, I just said, well, why don't I just take and balance each half on jacks and then run a level underneath them. And if I get a level, give it perfectly level across these two jacks and do the same at the other end, well, that's about as flat as I can get it. So that's why I do it. It saves me from flipping the wing, which a lot of times I'm working alone, and almost all the time I'm by myself, nobody to help me flip it. In the long run, it's easier for me, and it gets my wing flatter. But I do not necessarily, it's way easier in the moment to go ahead, lay it on your table, do your entire top, grab the wing, flip it over, do your entire bottom. That's far easier. And I'm not real sure that the wing even has to be that flat. Now, I have proven that if you get your wing, the outer portion of the wing twisted up or down a pinch, say, well, mine was 1.25 inches twisted up, but only from the strut out. And for some reason, it was measured perfectly flat out to that point, and something about my rear strut needed being extended just a little bit, and then that flattened the wing the whole way out. But the way it was originally, and the first time I flew it, I had to have full right aileron and kick rudder just to keep wings level. And that was a scary flight, and I learned a lot. You do want your wings flat, but I don't think they have to be so flat as what I'm trying to get them with jacking them up like this. So next, I'm gonna drill holes for the 1/16 cotter pins, and that's the only thing I'm waiting for, to get the pulleys put in there permanently and torqued down. So unfortunately, the only driver that I have that will hold the 1/16 bit is actually a nut driver without a multi-speed, so it's a very slow drill, far too slow for that small of a drill. But the way I figure out where that's going to go is I just pull this along the wheel there and measure the shortest distance. Right there. We've got 300 thousandths, 310 thousandths approximately. And let's see about the other side. Same thing. I'm just going to, let's turn it over. and that side has 350 thousandths. So we'll go ahead and snug this up, and I'll just make a scratch right there, 350 thousandths. And then I'll go back to the first side, do the same thing, but whoops, what was that, too thin? Come on. 310 thousandths, so that's what it was last time. Okay, so on this side I'll go 310 thousandths, scratch that line, and now I've got to get a line that's perpendicular to this here bolt hole on this radius, and you can pretty much eyeball that. And then when you drill the hole has to be outside of that line, but not much. You want it as close to that line as you can get it, almost touching that line. You don't want it touching the pulley, but you want it very close. You don't want that cable to be able to slip out anyway. So my plan is to go ahead and drill through on the top side, and then just watch on the bottom side to make sure I come through. Well, it's actually cutting pretty good for as slow as it's going. Yes, I am. And I think I did good. Very, very close. And the pulley still spins freely. It's well away from the pulley, or not well away, it's free from it, but you can see that the cable would not be able to jump track. Now this one's going to be much more difficult. I don't have a good solid place to measure from to a wheel because it's not open. So I think I'm just going to get my center punch and just use my eyeball. Of course, I'll have to have it on a line that's straight out from the bolt head, and then center punch it there. And this one, as you can see, I didn't get quite as close as the other one was, but that's still pretty close, because at their radius, you see, that's how big the cable is, so it's not going to jump out of that track, I don't believe. So on this one, the drill actually hit this outer part of the wheel, just barely catching it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and drag a file, run a file over this, smooth it out, and it goes about 1/4 of the way around the wheel. So right there it lets up, doesn't touch there. So I'll just run a file over that so it doesn't catch on the cotter pin on that one side. And now it spins all the way around very freely, so go ahead and put them on now. So they're finished and reinstalled and torqued. That's pretty good. So now we can get going on the geodetic, and then I'll need to cut the spars, false spars for the leading edge spars.